Welcome to the Exactly podcast.
I'm Abby.
And I'm Jen.
We're bookworms,
fangirls, and lovers of pop culture,
and content creators who started this podcast as a way to connect with a new community.
If you're listening, we're so glad you're here.
So we are back with a new season.
Ooh, so excited.
I know, it feels so cool. So we're changing things up, and the first way that we're doing so is we'll be bringing you more concentrated topics each week. We'll still keep you updated on things like what we're reading, watching, all that fun stuff, but we're not going to take up so long each episode with that anymore, which
if we even
feels good.
Yeah,
if we even are talking about it that week. We think this will give us more time to focus on those topics each week and be able to bring you more value to those conversations. And we're really excited.
Yeah, which leads us to today's episode, which is all about a hot topic that we don't really see people talk about on social media or anywhere really. And that is whether or not losing Instagram followers can be a good thing. But before we dive into that, because it's the end of the month and the start of a new month, we figured, hey, let's do a very quick wrap up of what we read super quickly, because this hot topic is a hot topic that we need to dive into. So
the whole month of January, right?
Yep. Very quickly.
Okay. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first? I'll go.
You can go first.
Let's bounce off. Okay. No, actually, I'll go first because you have a lot more than me.
Really? So, how many did you read this month?
I'm going to say 6 because I know I'm going to finish my current read today.
Okay.
But I haven't technically finished it yet.
I mean, same in finishing my read today, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to count it. So I started with Check and Mate. Then I read Ruthless Vows, the rom-com by Devin Daniels. Also, Ruthless Vows is by Rebecca Boss, and Check and Mate is by Allie Hazelwood. I'm going to say the authors. Then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Lots of YA to start my year off.
I see.
And then I read Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, and I'm currently reading, I know, it's so good. And then I'm currently reading Alternate Endings by Allie Rosen, an advanced reading copy.
And that's going to be your last read of you think it's going to be your last one? And it's funny because that was my first read of the month.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, that is fun. Now that I'm trying to pick a favorite, I'm like, I don't know. I think Alternate Endings will be my favorite by the time I finish today. But if I'm
loving it so far,
yes, I'm loving it so far. I'm like 60-ish% through 70, but I'm gonna have a good bit of time to read tonight. Yeah. But if I had to pick a favorite out of the ones I've already finished, this is very, very tricky. But I'm scared to say one. I'm gonna go Better Than the Movies. That one was really, really, really stinking cute. Nice. It was really stinking cute.
Okay. I've actually been wanting to read that one, so I'm gonna have to add it to my TBR.
Love Redesigned was right up there with it, though. I've loved every book I've read so far. It's been 4 or 5 stars. So.
I think me too, kind of around there somewhere. So
good start. Okay, so what's yours?
I read 13 books this month, and it's interesting. I said I was going to read less, and I'm still reading a lot, but yeah. And today I'm hoping to finish my 14th read, which I forgot. Oh, it's an ARC. It's a football romance. The Summer Playbook. You would love it.
But you're reading those books because you want to, not because you feel like you have to.
Oh, exactly. So, yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Whereas before I felt like I needed to complete a number, and now it's more of like, hey, I have time to read, and somehow read this much anyway. So but yeah, so as I said, first book was Alternate Endings by Allie Rosen. Highly recommend. Then I read, and that was a closed door romance, and then the second book that I read was also a closed door romance with Canadian Boyfriend by Jenny Holiday. Also recommend. Then the Windsor Brothers series. It's all an arranged to marriage series, but it works. The Wrong Bride by Katharina Mara, The Temporary Wife by Katharina Mara, and The Unwanted Marriage by Katharina Mara. Loved all 3. And then I read the duology Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. And then I read it. This one was probably my least favorite-ish of the month, but it wasn't by any means bad. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was Hot Route by C.L. Rose, football romance. It was actually good. Just it was a debut. It needed a little bit more, but still good. Then I read The Breakup Tour, and dear goodness, it's two authors, Emily Wibberley and Austin something something. But basically, if you're a Swiftie, this book is for you. Like even the dedication is like for Swifties, so which is really cool. Then I read A Fragile Enchantment by Alison Saft. Highly recommend it. Loved it. Then I read one of my favorite, not my favorite, but one of my favorites of the month, which was Bride by Hallie Hazelwood. You're gonna love that one so much. And then I read Ashes of You by Catherine Cowles, which I've been waiting for that one. And then I read Icebound by Meredith Trapp, which is a debut hockey romance, I believe. So it's interesting because going into this episode, I was like, I know which one is my favorite. And I remembered that I read another book this month that also became a favorite. So now it's like, oh my goodness. But I think I'm going to have to go with Ashes of You by Catherine Cowles. I was crying. Like my reading updates are all about tears, more tears, crying. Like I was just crying the entire book. That it was the perfect ending to the series.
Tears? Like good tears?
Both,
okay.
Both. It was heavily emotional. It was tough. It was like, oh my gosh, but it was also like, oh, it's so precious. So yeah, it became definitely my favorite of the series, my favorite by Catherine Cowles, and just my favorite of the month for sure. So
is Bride by Allie Hazelwood, is that adult or is it young adult?
It's adult. Yeah.
Okay. I should have pre-ordered it before I went on my pre-order pause. Okay.
It's
noted.
It's a paranormal romance, so it's vampire and werewolf, and it's an arranged marriage.
Okay. So okay. I will have to get that one
good.
for sure.
It's very good. I can't wait for more. Like if she continues writing like in this genre, paranormal, like I'm all for it. She did a great job. So
yeah. That's exciting.
Great reading month for both of us. That's a good way to start off the year.
I know, it feels good. So diving into today's controversial topic is okay.
I do have a question.
This is complicated.
Before we dive in, although actually, let's give a little bit of an introduction or I'm deciding. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and ask you. Do you remember when was the first time that you heard of followers who don't engage with your account, like how that hurts your account? Do you remember when that was?
It was a while back, but it was one of those things where you hear it, but at the time Instagram had just started changing the way that the algorithm worked, so nobody wanted to listen to the advice, because you're right. You'll go into this, but when I joined Bookstagram, it was a time where everybody was, and it wasn't disingenuous. Everybody really wanted to find each other. So we were doing things like follow trains and engagement pods. And we weren't really doing it with the intention of just increasing your numbers. You were doing it because you wanted this community of readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it was like a win-win because it's like, okay, and you've got more followers.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, I think it's also been, probably around the time I hit 20,000 followers, because I think I kind of have a vague recollection of that. And that was back in probably 2020. I want to believe that's kind of around the time. And I found out through Stephanie by the Espresso Edition. She's been a blogger for years, longer than I have, I believe. And I remember that, I don't know where she said it, if it was an Instagram story or what, but I remember she shared something and she was like, like I value engagement a lot more. And so I have to clean up my followers every once in a while. And I was like, what does she mean clean up her followers? Because by then she didn't have 10,000 followers yet. And back then 10,000 followers meant that you were going to get your, what was it? Back then the story swipe up. So to link up something, remember? Now it's the link sticker.
I forgot you had to have 10,000 for that back then.
Yeah. And everybody, that was the goal for everybody. Like everybody wanted to reach at least 10,000 so we could have the links. And she was like, I don't care because I value more a genuine, community and genuine followers over having a ton of them that, push me over 10K and having the link swipe up thing, but then not having a genuine community. And that
And
made me think, yeah.
mhm. Oh no, I was just gonna say, and for anybody who's listening along, if you want some context to like see what we're talking about, you can
Mm-hmm.
follow Jen. Your account is at Whispering Chapters, but you've
Yeah.
got a more lower key account at Whispering Moments. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that too, I'm sure. And
Yes.
then my account is at A Cozy Adventurer. So you've got almost 50,000, right? On Whispering Chapters, 49 something, I think.
So yeah, so I could have, and I always say this, I could have surpassed that number many moons ago, but I am
Mm-hmm.
constantly removing followers. I actually even got to
Mm-hmm.
53,000 earlier or late last year, and I just
Mm-hmm.
started removing, and I'm now at 49,
Mm-hmm.
49.3,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm at 14.1 or 14.2 right now, so I'm a little small. I'm definitely smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so just for some context to anybody
Yeah.
listening who's like, I want to see, what they're talking about.
Yeah. So,
So you,
oh,
and
go
you've
ahead.
been
I'm sorry.
and no, you're fine. I think it's important too to let people know like how long we've both been around, so the
Mm,
experience that we've had within the Bookstagram
yeah.
community. So and this is your second account, right? Your Whispering
Yes.
Chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been sharing book content on Instagram for how many years?
Since 2013.
So 10 years, almost
Yeah, more.
11.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I started in 20, oh gosh, it was 20, I want to guess 2017-ish.
Yeah,
That
somewhere around
sounds
there.
about right.
2017 or
So,
2018, around there somewhere. Mm-hmm.
because I
Yeah.
definitely had it when Matt and I got engaged at the end of 2018, and I definitely had it at that point.
Oh, okay.
But I think it was very new. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it started
Yeah.
as a cat account.
It still is. It's a cat bookstagram account.
Yeah, now it's just a cat bookstagram. Um, so yeah. So
Yeah,
we've been around. We've been on here a while.
and Instagram has changed and has come a long way from a few years ago. And like you mentioned, back in the day, follow trains, engagement pods, shout out for shout out, follow for a shout out, all
Mm,
of that, that used to be what mattered a lot because like you said, not only I think it was a half and half. I think some just wanted to really be able to find new accounts to follow, but then maybe others were focusing on, I need the followers to get,
that makes sense.
understand?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it was a half and half.
Mm-hmm.
But then, unfortunately, this ended up hurting many because, well, some users would follow because they genuinely liked your account. Others were doing it for what they could gain. I even
Mm-hmm.
follow accounts that have over 100,000 followers, and the likes that they receive and the engagement, it's like a lot less than 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Mm-hmm.
compare, it's like, that's hurtful. Like, that hurts. That's
Mm-hmm.
not, when you really think about it, that's not the
Mm-hmm.
metric. It should not be that.
Mm-hmm.
So
No, I agree. I mean, thinking back, there were times when my account had less than half the followers it does now that I was getting the same amount of likes because it's so much easier to keep the community strong
mm-hmm.
when the numbers are lower.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's
Mm-hmm. I was even
it's
telling you
wild.
that actually
Mm-hmm.
the other
Mm-hmm.
day, where before I hit 10K back in the day, I remember like the engagement was so high because I think it was also easier to just kind of engage with other people because it's
Mm-hmm.
like less followers. I don't know. Like, I felt like it was a lot easier to engage, and now it's definitely a little bit harder for me, at
And
least.
you're reminding me of a book thread that I saw the other day. The Twitter alternative that Instagram
Mm-hmm.
released. Somebody was actually complaining because they were saying that they're really tired of seeing bookish accounts act like they want to build, I'm curious your opinion on this, build a
Ooh.
community, and then they go to their account to try to follow them, and they know that they're not going to get a follow back because their ratio is so high. And the thing is that could theoretically be said about me because I only follow like 700-800 people with the 14,000
Mm-hmm.
followers, but it's also because I care about the little like button popped up. I need to turn that off. Because I care about the community, I'm very intentional with who I'm following. I don't
Of
want to just
course.
follow random accounts
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that I don't care about your content, but at the same time, I want
No,
to be
yeah.
intentional.
No, it
And then
makes sense.
because the more you follow, the less you see on your feed. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
tricky. No,
Mm-hmm.
there's no number I would stop at. I would go as high as I want to, but that's just it, as high as I
Instagram
want
makes it,
to.
yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram makes it harder. For they're like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, build a community, but then it's like you're not really helping. You're not really
Mm-mm.
helping in that front. So
Mm-mm.
it definitely sucks. And um before back in the day, follower, and even then, that's still the mentality that many bookstagrammers have, and just overall accounts where followers is the major thing. But the reality is that engagement goes over a lot more than followers.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
100%.
mm-hmm. On social media, like followers are definitely a key indicator of like, oh yeah, this person, this person has value in a way. But then the reality is, and like I mentioned earlier, just because you have 10,000 followers, millions of followers, it doesn't really mean much. Because again, you can have millions of followers, but if only 300 are engaging with your account, that's,
Mm-hmm.
so what actually matters is the engagement that you
Mm-hmm.
get from those accounts. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I see you have a thought. Go ahead.
No, I had a thought, but I paused it. Sorry. No, I was just going to say it almost as also goes hand in hand, because when you're focused on the engagement, you find that your community grows, and it grows more naturally and more
Mm-hmm.
consistently, even if
Organically.
it's slower growth. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Other
Exactly. Yeah.
than, it's why I took I did a master class from, oh, what's her name? Book Till Dawn.
Christina. Yeah. Christina from Book
Christina.
Till Down.
We love her account. And I still have two master classes to do of hers, but the first one I did, she was talking about how going viral, for instance, and I just referenced that because it's the easiest way to get a lot of followers fast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not a long-term growth strategy, because how many of those followers are just random accounts? How many of those followers are
Mm-hmm.
bot accounts? How many of those people are just following? I know you've run into this, are just following you
Yeah.
for one reason on that one specific reel, but that's not even necessarily what, that's not the
Mm-hmm.
purpose behind your content. So then they're not
Mm-hmm.
sticking around and engaging with your regular content that you are passionate about sharing. So it's such a tricky thing, but I do
Yeah.
feel like it goes hand in hand. When you're focused on your community, that is when you see growth in a
Mm-hmm.
more sustainable way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Instagram picks up on it because when you have low engagement, the algorithm, which is what's big right now, the algorithm will be like, oh, like this content is obviously not putting out relevant content. Sorry, this
Mm-hmm.
creator is not putting out relevant content. So why
Mm-hmm.
am I going to push their content in the algorithm for other people to see?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's something to definitely keep in mind because then you're going to start reaching less people. Um, and so,
Mm-hmm.
not only that, the reality is that nowadays brands are focusing a lot more on engagement than followers
Mm-hmm.
um, on whether to get someone to partner
Mm-hmm.
with. And even with my job, which is in publishing, same thing. Whenever I'm looking for Instagrammers and I'm looking for book influencers, I actually look for the micro influencers, which we will get into. And I
Mm-hmm.
look at the micro influencers, and a lot of them that have only like 2,000 followers, they're not in any engagement pods or anything like that, but their engagement is through the roof. And it's like, I want to work with them, even if you have 2,000
Mm-hmm.
followers, because I see that you're maintaining an engaged community. And that's what matters at the end of the day.
Exactly.
We need to put a pause here because
Yeah,
it's
I
less than a
noticed that
minute.
too. So going off of that, deliberately looking from a brand's perspective for accounts that have higher engagement.
Mm-hmm.
A big reason for that, I think, is because when your numbers are lower, your audience is going to naturally trust you more. There are studies that
Yeah.
have shown that because you're connecting with them, it feels more personal
Mm-hmm.
still. And there are studies that show that these big accounts with hundreds of thousands of followers, millions of followers, obviously they're successful, and that is amazing too. But their audience naturally trusts them less because they know that's their job. Their job is to
Yeah.
sell you on things. And there are specific influencers that I think have done a really great job of maintaining a personal feel as they've grown. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
JC Marie Smith and Chelsea
Yeah.
Jade Curtis, we love them, of the What We Said podcast. They feel very genuine, even though their following is large. So when they're posting a partnership or a sponsorship, I still feel like they're doing it because they actually genuinely believe and trust the brand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that feels special. It's kind of like being a Swiftie. You feel connected to Taylor because she's made you feel connected still despite the insane
Yeah.
growth that she has. Who knew
Yes.
we'd be
Yeah.
finding a way to relate it to Taylor Swift in this episode? But
Always.
but yeah, that's, I mean, it naturally follows that your audience is going to
Hmm.
be more niched down. So it makes sense to try and find, depending on your product, somebody who has that type of audience and more niched. I'm blanking on the word, but I mean, I guess engaged. Engaged is kind of the hot word of the
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah. Which then goes into something that we, unfortunately, social media has pushed our brains from and has made us think that quantity over quality is what
Mm-hmm.
matters. But the reality is that that's not the case. Quality
Mm-hmm.
over quantity is really where you want to be, because
Mm-hmm.
especially not only with your content, but with your followers, because the quality
Mm-hmm.
of those followers are going to matter more than the quantity. Once again, you want to create that engaged community. What if you have, like we mentioned before, you have hundreds and thousands of followers, but then that community isn't replying, it isn't commenting, isn't sharing, isn't doing all of that stuff. That's going to hurt you, especially with the algorithm. But then let's say you
Mm-hmm.
have 500 followers, but then those 500 followers are actually engaging, they're sharing your content to others, so others can realize, hey, this account exists, which means more genuine follow back, or not even follow back,
Mm-hmm.
just follows in general. So, and this is where, engagement really is number one. And with your
Mm-hmm.
content, unfortunately, when Instagram came out with Reels, if you wanted to grow very quickly, that's what you started to do. You would post 2 to 3 Reels in a day, every single day
Mm-hmm.
during the week, and you would see growth immediately. But then, like you mentioned, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
those followers that you would get from those specific Reels were only following because of that one Reel. And
Mm-hmm.
later on, they would remove themselves because they were like, oh, this
Mm-hmm.
person isn't posting what I want. And they would remove themselves, or they would stay there, not engaging with your account, which in turn ends up hurting your account
Mm-hmm.
because they would become what's called a ghost follower.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So ghost follower is a follower you've got that's there. They're active on Instagram, or they're not active on Instagram at all.
Yeah,
But
sometimes, yeah.
regardless, they never like your stuff. They never watch your stories. They're just there. And it
Yeah.
doesn't do a single thing for you, but hurt your percentage on engagement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It
One of
really
the,
sucks. Yeah.
mhm, mhm. And one of the So, okay, hang on. Let's backtrack a little bit. So, should you remove ghost and bot followers? What's your take on that?
Oh yeah, 100%. I learned
Yes,
that from
100%.
Stephanie. Yep, I learned that from
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie from the Espresso edition, where she's constantly removing followers. And at first, it's scary. And I have talked to
Mm-hmm.
other bookstagrammers, and they're like, oh, but I don't want to do that. And I think you even told me this once at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
where there's like, well, I don't want to do that because I barely have enough followers as it is. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
sure, but you're going to regret it in the future if you don't start doing
Mm-hmm.
that now. Because in the future, when you grow so much, then it's like, oh, now it's daunting. It's very overwhelming. Like it's been overwhelming for me ever since I hit
Mm-hmm.
20,000, like having to slowly start removing. And I wish I had stuck to it, because
Mm-hmm.
if I had, maybe my account would be different nowadays. But because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't and I could just got lazy, I continued growing. And it's, oh my gosh, it really is tiring to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
There's no easy way. There's no trick for you to like, oh, like Instagram automatically does it for me. No, you have to sit
Mm-hmm.
down and go account by account, which, yeah, it's very time consuming, as you know, because I know you've done it as well.
Mm-hmm. It would be so nice if the same way that Instagram has started, I don't know if you've noticed, but on stories, it'll, instead of, when the spam bots pop up in your story views,
Yeah.
and sometimes, life pro tip, that's somebody watching your story anonymously from like a third party site if you're a
Yeah.
public account. But sometimes it truly is just like a spam bot. And Instagram has started um, at the bottom of your story views, it'll say some views are hidden because they're likely spam. And then you can tap that and see the bots that are there. It would be really cool if they could apply that same thing to your followers and say, hey, these are inactive accounts, or these
Oh,
are likely
yes.
spam accounts. Would you like to remove them? And then go through it. It would be so nice if they did that for us. Because I know
It really would.
You told me that one of the ways you do that is you just click your followers and you search like letter by letter, right? Didn't you say you did
Yeah,
that?
so I started with numbers because
Oh, okay.
a lot of a lot of spam accounts and stuff like that, they will have numbers. So I will start by like writing 1 1, for example, or
Mm-hmm.
even underscore underscore, just kind of like
Uh-huh.
stuff like that, because a lot of bookstagrammers or a lot of like accounts that actually engage don't have like these weird usernames.
Right.
So I would just be like underscore 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 period, or
Mm-hmm.
1 1 1 2, and I just kind of go like that, and that's how I've removed so many. And it's like an easy way to be able to, like, easy, and I say easy with air quotes because it's not that easy, but it kind of helps a little bit. Or even
Mm-hmm.
finding, even just scrolling through your followers and looking accounts that don't have a profile picture. That's
Mm-hmm.
one key way of doing it. And then the other one, which is a little bit slower to remove followers, but it's literally clicking account per account and then verifying their follower number, comparing it with their following number. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes, a lot of people will be following over 2,000 followers. The reality is, your account may not necessarily be shown to them because they're following
Mm-hmm.
so many that chances are, especially if they don't normally engage with your content, they're not going, Instagram is not going to show them. It's not going to. And
Exactly.
it's just,
Which
yeah.
is going back honestly to that book thread because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're following accounts that you genuinely want to see their content of.
Yeah,
When
of course.
you I don't know, I've never been into that, the following thousands and thousands of accounts. It's great in
Mm-hmm.
theory, but you're not gonna see. They're just gonna be
Yeah.
lost in a sea of your.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
also, Instagram's probably not going to know what type of content to show you if you're following that many accounts because they're like, what
True.
is it that you like? Like,
True.
what are you here for?
Yeah.
Your
That's
feed's
very
probably
true.
all over the place.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, actually.
Along those lines of being intentional with the accounts that you are following, there are groups that friends online will do to solely focus on making sure they're engaging with each other, engagement groups
Yeah.
or pods.
Or engagement pods. Yeah.
I used to be
Mm-hmm.
in a few when I was a
Me
smaller
too.
account,
Me too.
and
Yeah.
I'm not in any anymore actually. I
Yeah.
had one that
Same.
was an engagement group that's still slightly active, but it's not used as that. It's just used as a chat.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a catch 22 because I think the intention can be good,
Yeah.
but I think that something that is huge, huge in growth these days is the fact that you should really try to come across as genuine. You should be genuine with your account.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is something that I've been working on even the last few months. I've thought, okay, I like this post. I'm going to just comment some hearts because I want to help them and I like their content. But
Yeah.
I don't think that it necessarily comes across as very meaningful. So I'm trying to do
Mm-hmm.
better about not just liking the photo or the reel and then commenting like laughing emoji. Like I'm trying to really slow down when I'm online too,
Yeah.
which feels counterintuitive, but slow down, read the captions, like
Yeah.
soak in what this person is trying to give me with their content beyond
Mm-hmm.
just thinking it's cute, liking it and
Yeah.
dropping a heart or a laugh.
Yeah.
Like being, I
No,
feel
yeah, I
like
know
that
what you
comes
mean.
across better in your responses. What
Oh, for
question are they
sure.
asking you in their caption today?
Yeah.
Answer the actual question. And I feel like that comes across, like that reflects.
It does. Like, I've
Mm-hmm.
actually received people who will ask, like, be like, "Oh my gosh, like, what's I wish I knew what it is that you have in the picture." And it's like in the caption, it's like the answer
Mm-hmm.
is right there of what I have in the picture. And I'm like, it's right there. Like, if you had read, or sometimes I will post a book and they will be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you loved it." And then this used to happen, but I don't really do that anymore, where I would post like negative reviews or something. But
Mm-hmm.
they would be like, "I'm so glad you loved it." And then it's like, did you even see? Because it's actually a negative review,
Oh my
and it's
gosh. Yeah.
that's yeah, that's where having a genuine community comes in, because
Yeah.
obviously this person is not genuine. They're just doing it, they're just commenting just to like receive a comment back, probably.
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and that's something that
Okay,
I've
Ross.
noticed, of other accounts, that they will they will, like you said, they will do like just heart emojis and that's it, because they want to help. But at the same time, it really does come across as you didn't have time to read. You didn't really have time to do anything. Like, even if you didn't read the caption, look at the picture at least and be like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
that book is in my TBR, or
Mm-hmm.
I read that book and I loved it, or I didn't love it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
actually be genuine with the way that you're engaging. And again, I learned this from Stephanie, has taught me so much. I would love to have her on a podcast episode, because
Yeah.
that's one of the things, that girl takes time to write captions. Like, she will write a paragraph, and she will do that for pretty much every account that she engages with. And it's like, that's an account that really cares about community, about
Mm-hmm.
friendship, and not just a comment back, not just a whatever. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's, I love that about her. And going very quickly into what you mentioned about the engagement pods, I think
Mm-hmm.
personally it's okay to have them if it's with a group of friends that because
Yes.
Instagram sometimes doesn't show us everything, especially
Mm-hmm.
stuff that we want to see. But I think the big engagement groups where it's like sometimes people invite you, like, hey, do you want to join this follow train? Do you want to join this engagement group? Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
That can actually hurt you, because once again, and actually we didn't even mention this, but a metric that Instagram has followed for a while, and it's been mentioned everywhere, it's how long does a follower engage with your content, especially when it's a
Mm-hmm.
carousel post. You know how, like, if you posted a carousel post and someone just simply liked it, which happens a lot with engagement groups, they just like it and continue scrolling, that sends the message to Instagram of, this post doesn't have enough value to show it to other people, to push it in the algorithm. And that's
Mm-hmm.
precisely, unfortunately, what engagement groups do. It's like scroll, because in order for you to
Mm-hmm.
stay in those engagement pods, they need to make sure that you're liking,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes
Mm-hmm.
saving or stuff like that. So if that turns, and I know you and I have both done it when we used to be in those groups years ago, where we would scroll, scroll. Once again, what Instagram sees is how long you're staying in that post. And even in reels, it comes across where you can see the watch time, I believe it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where
Yep.
it shows you how long a follower stayed through watching your reel. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
shorter reels tend to perform better, because a 3-second reel, someone can see it and then scroll. And so,
Mm-hmm.
that's why they tend to perform better. But the reality is, it also applies to carousel posts, to just one regular post. And if Instagram sees followers are not really stopping to look at the picture, read caption, or engage, so why should I do my job of pushing this to the algorithm? They're not going
Mm-hmm.
to, sadly, but
I
it is
think
what it
I
is.
think Yeah, I think the type of engagement group is the biggest factor there if you're going to do them, because like you said, it really just needs to be like a group of actual friends that you have, or
Mm-hmm.
of accounts that you would like to get to know more, because
Yeah.
honestly, I'm not going to lie, it turns me off when I'm scrolling and I see somebody has tagged an engagement group these days. I'm like, you know what I'm
Same.
talking about?
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
for anybody who's not on Bookstagram, or if you're in a different niche and you haven't been around for years and years, it used to be very popular to be a part of
Oh,
groups
yes.
where there would be an actual Instagram account made for the group, and you would tag that group in your photo, and then to be in the engagement group, you would have to view the tagged posts for the group and then go through, like, save, comment on all of those.
That was a better introduction to the engagement groups. You did it
We
so
were
well.
crazy. We were
Yeah.
crazy though, weren't we? Like,
Yeah.
what? That's how we were
And
doing it.
there's still a lot of accounts that do that. And
There's
it's not
still a
only just
thing.
one or two. Like, I've come across accounts that will tag like at least 5, a
Mm-hmm.
minimum. I'm like,
And
how?
there is nothing wrong with wanting your content to perform well.
To
You
be
are
seen,
putting
yeah.
effort into your content. You
Of
are
course.
using your social media as an online creative space. That's how I always
Mm-hmm.
say it. Like, this is my creative outlet for me. But when you do things like that in 2024, it seems like you are only posting for the likes. You are not
Yeah.
posting to get better at creating your content or at increasing your connection with your followers. If I see a
Mm-hmm.
tagged engagement group, I'm like, ooh, you're posting for your likes, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's not
Yeah.
good. It's
Yeah.
not good.
And this is a whole other episode that we have planned. We have
Mm-hmm.
two planned, that are, one is for, and we kind of touched just very smidge over here, but just quality over quantity with your content and
Mm-hmm.
evergreen content.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we will touch on this later on more in depth, but very quickly, you want to share content that people want to not only like and that's it, but people want to be like, wait, I kind of like what she's saying. Let me pay attention to what it is. And they want to save it because they want to go back to it. And they want to
Mm-hmm.
share it because, man, I like this
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. I want other people to also know what it is that I found out. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
just sharing just to share, again, quantity, you know where I'm going with this. And again, this is a whole
Yes.
other episode that we have planned for later on in the month, or actually maybe
Mm-hmm.
even March. But we will dive into that a little bit more. But going back into the engagement and all of that stuff, I know, Abby,
Mm-hmm.
you with the masterclass that you had taken about how
Mm-hmm.
community building takes time. And I know you touched on this very quickly, but I want you to like go over it just a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. So she talked a lot about how, of course, growth can be great. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, you do want to see your account growing, to know that it's getting
Mm-hmm.
in front of people and that
Mm-hmm.
your content is seen and valued. But something that is really important to do and to note here is I think that where people can get in their heads a lot is checking those numbers on a really frequent basis.
Yeah.
I can't do that because it messes with my head. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to go up and down. Every day you're going to lose followers. Every day you're going to get new followers. Those followers are either going to stay or they're going to love your stuff, or they might have followed you, like you said, and then they don't really care about the other type of stuff you're putting out. They're not going to engage, whatever. That up and down, you can't look at that, but you've got to look at maybe a weekly basis. But she said that she likes to look on a monthly basis because that's going to give you a better overall sense of, is your account growing or is it not?
Mm-hmm.
It's not a bad thing if somebody follows you, realizes they don't love your content, and unfollows you. Like you said, I'd rather
Yeah.
them do that than me have to go through and put in the work to make them unfollow
I've,
me.
and that's what I wanted to say earlier, and I had forgotten that it's like
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done this in a while, but I used to share to my Instagram stories like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
like if you want to unfollow me, I'm not saying this just to say it. Like, please unfollow me. Don't think it's gonna hurt my
Mm-hmm.
feelings. Don't know, because if at the end of the day, if you don't like my content, don't stay just out of pity or because you're like, oh, I may lose her as a friend. No, like please make my job easier here. Please remove
No.
yourself, and not in a get out. No, like in a
Mm-hmm.
genuine, yeah, like go ahead. Like it's fine. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
okay that my content doesn't do it for you anymore. I'm okay with that.
But
110%.
let me interject here though and
Go
say that
ahead.
that to me goes more for people that I don't know. Like if you were to unfollow me and be
Oh,
like,
okay.
Abby, I'm just not loving your content anymore, it would really hurt my feelings.
Okay. I see that. But again, yeah, it has to
Saying,
be with people. Yeah, okay. I get what you're
because if
saying.
I say, okay, so my brother, he streams sometimes. He's not on social media, but if he put out really the type of content that I don't care about, like, oh, cars. He has a car account. I'm not a
Okay.
car person, but I
Yeah.
like and I engage with his car stuff because that's my brother and I care about him and I want him to
Gotcha.
do well.
Yeah.
So like,
I understand.
this mainly goes for people that you're not close with in real life. I feel like that's obvious,
Oh,
but
okay. Yeah. Yeah. But even then, actually, I remember seeing this somewhere, where it said, if your family members, how sometimes like your mom will be on Instagram, but she's not really like, maybe
yeah.
goes in like once a month, but she follows you. I read somewhere it's like, just remove her. Like just complete. Yeah, it
Oh,
literally
that's
said that, because
funny.
it said that, like just because they're wanting to support, the reality is they're not doing it in the way that's going to help your account. They're just
Mm.
simply there taking a follower spot, but not an engaged follower, even if it's your family member. And I remember
So
being
I'm
like,
just a sensitive
oh.
girly because my mom's like that, but I'm not going to remove her. I'm too sensitive for that. I want my mom to follow me. I'm like, that's my mom. Yes, follow
Aw.
my account.
Yeah, but
I'll
no,
deal
that
with the
that I
other
remember.
numbers.
I would love to find the article because I read this a while back, and I remember thinking, I mean, it made sense. It really does, because once
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're wanting to create and build that engaged community, when you have those family members or friends that are following because they're like, oh, but I just,
Mm-hmm.
I want to follow her, but then they're barely engaging, barely liking. I do have friends in real life that don't necessarily care about bookish account, but I
Mm-hmm.
see them liking my pictures. Sometimes they will
That's
even
nice. I
share.
agree. That's how
and
I
it's like,
feel about it
okay,
too.
please stay because you're definitely helping me out here. Like,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, but I've even told them, I've even said to them, hey, like if at a certain point you don't really feel like you like my account anymore, like it really is not going to hurt my feelings if you want to follow. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
110% understand it, because I understand the whole follower versus engagement metric and just
Mm-hmm.
all of that situation. So to me, it really is fine, I guess. Like if
It's a catch 22. Yeah,
I get,
I feel
yeah.
like that too. Because like I have friends who they don't care about the bookish content, but they because I'm more well-rounded, I think, in my stories. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll like watch my stories. And I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that they're watching my stories because that's an important metric for Instagram too,
Yeah.
even if
Oh
you're just
yeah, for sure.
and so yeah, that's tricky when it comes to people
Yeah.
I feel like that is not necessarily what we're talking about in this episode. We're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Of
masses on
course. Of
Instagram.
course. Yeah.
But yeah, to just conclude that thought, know that there is no such thing as overnight growth that's going to give you long-term success. Overnight growth, you've got to be
Mm-hmm.
careful with it. Someone who I think has done a really great job of their overnight growth and nurturing their community still is Laura Elite Reading at Elite
Yeah,
Reading.
I
She blew
agree.
up. If you're listening and you're on Book Talk / Bookstagram, you probably know she blew up with her man leaning on the doorknob and
She
or the
created that
doorway,
trend.
and
Yeah.
she started that whole trend. So she had overnight success, and she has done a really good job of, I think, continuing to come across very genuine despite that. It doesn't seem like
Mm-hmm.
she got the numbers and she's just like, okay, I'm good. It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like that at all. Her content feels the exact same. And I love that for her. And I love
Yeah.
that as a follower of her. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Same.
basically, don't check your followers all the time because the up and down is not necessarily bad. It's people figuring out if they want to be a part of your community or not. Look
Mm-hmm.
either weekly or monthly. I would suggest bi-weekly or monthly. I wouldn't even go
Yeah,
off of a weekly
probably
because you
same.
might have a piece of content that's doing exceptionally great that week, So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was all I had to say about that.
It's definitely a lot. But basically what we want to just leave you with is that
Mm-hmm.
it's great to just have the followers. It's great to have the likes. All of that is great. Have the saves, have all of it in theory. But what really matters is just having a more engaged and genuine community, because you want your followers to trust you. You want your followers, let's say, especially for the bookstagrammers, and this goes for any niche brand where or any niche content creator, where when they share something that they want to recommend to their followers, it's great when people are like, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to read it, and or I'm going to test this out, and then later on they message you and are like, oh my gosh, that thing you recommended, I loved it. Doesn't that feel amazing? You
Oh,
can build
it's the
that,
best.
right? You can build that with a genuine and engaged community. But what matters if you have a ton of followers? Again, they're all ghost followers, or not all, but you know what I mean. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of them are ghost followers, and then you're recommending books, but you're really screaming into the void. You're recommending into the
Mm-hmm.
void because a lot of them may not necessarily trust you, because they're like, okay, this person is here for the likes, or again, it's a ghost followers, a lot of ghost followers that they're not even going to care. They're just going to scroll by. You don't create that genuine, that connection, that
Mm-hmm.
community. And that's what really matters. And going very quickly into what you mentioned about earlier
Mm-hmm.
about me having a second account, Whispering Moments. My
Mm-hmm.
that account is like my relaxing my
Mm-hmm.
relaxing posting, where it's like I don't care about the amount of followers. Like I'm really just wanting genuine community there, because I did not nurture it with Whispering Chapters from the start, because I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea. So with Whispering Moments, having that knowledge, I went into it wanting that, just genuine connection with people. And as little followers as I have, which is like 500, I've been removing followers that I see that sometimes some pop up that are definitely bots. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you following? And I just remove it. I don't care, because at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, I have been building so many wonderful connections and friendships over on that account, that I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, even with people that actually follow me on Whispering Chapters, never
Mm-hmm.
talk to them on that account. But in Whispering Moments, we're actually building a connection. So you can
Oh, that
definitely
makes me
see the
happy.
difference. You'd see the difference
Mm-hmm.
there. So I'm definitely
Mm-hmm.
nurturing Whispering Moments from now on, because I'm just loving that connection. And I feel like I can post whatever I want to. And people are
Mm-hmm.
noticing that. Like, I'm not posting something just to post it just because it's on trend, like with the whole
Mm-hmm.
carousel post when that became, remember, that was the
Mm-hmm.
thing, even better than reels. Instagram was saying suddenly everybody
Mm-hmm.
was posting carousels, and the reality is some of them you could tell were just posting just to post a carousel post. Like, it was just a very
Mm-hmm.
random thing, especially in the bookstagram community. I saw it a lot from people that I follow, and I could tell from a mile away. I was like, they're doing it just because Instagram is saying
Yeah.
to do it. And it's like, hey, you do you. If you want to grow, I get it. But at the same time, again, your followers can tell, and this is something you had shared with me from the masterclass. Your followers can tell if you're being genuine or not. If you're sharing
Mm-hmm.
something because you genuinely care about what you're sharing, or if you're sharing something because it's so trendy that you want to jump on it and you don't want to let go of it. And you kind of
Mm-hmm.
have to find a balance between something that's trendy and joining that trend while still maintaining a genuine and quality of the content that you're
Mm-hmm.
sharing. I feel like, did that
Mm-hmm.
even make sense?
No, that made a lot of sense.
Okay.
Honestly, you've just a quick note that you've inspired me a lot with the way that you are handling your Whispering Moments account. And to as a smaller account on my A Cozy Adventure account, I have been taking more active steps to like further that connection with people that I
Yeah,
have on there. Like I think an incredibly underrated feature is swiping up on someone's story and responding. I've been doing
for
that
sure.
so much, and it is such an easy way. A lot of times people do want to be your friend, just nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows how to start a
Yeah,
conversation. So
yeah.
I'm
We're all
joining this girl.
awkward.
We're all awkward. We're all bookworms. Like, of course,
Yeah.
we're a little awkward. Something that I think is really underrated is swiping up on people's stories and starting a conversation that way because like you said, we're all a little awkward. We're all bookworms. Like we
Yeah.
all want to be friends with each other. A lot of times we just don't know how to start actual conversations beyond supporting each other from
Yeah.
afar. And so I've been trying to do that more. And I was inspired by you with your Whispering Moments account because I'm smaller on my Cozy Adventure account and I want to take that lesson from you and go ahead and be nurturing it really well.
Yeah.
And so there's this girl, for instance, Emily Page Books. I've followed her for a while. I love her content. She's doing a book club next month on Fable, and we're reading the 7 Year Slip. I don't normally do book clubs, but I think it would be a great way to join in and meet some new people and read a
Mm-hmm.
book I've been wanting to read for a long time. And to the traveling bookster, I shared on my story last week a post of Robert Pattinson and Suki Waterhouse. I'm obsessed with them.
I
They're the
love
most
them.
beautiful couple
They're
to me.
so cute. Yeah.
Yeah, and she swiped up and she is a flight attendant. Her account is absolutely stunning. She takes photos traveling. She's the traveling bookster. And she swiped up and she said that she's had both Robert Pattinson and Suki Waterhouse on flights before and that they are incredibly lovely
Oh, that's
people.
so cool.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And because she broke that ice, I'm
I'm
like, wow,
following her, by the way.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, isn't her account stunning?
Well, I'm still
Stunning.
looking. You said, oh, I can't find traveling bookstore.
Bookster. There's 2 L's in traveling.
Oh, traveling. Okay,
For the
continue. Sorry.
YouTube viewers, I'm trying out new headphones today and they keep popping out of my ears because I'm not used to them. But I think it's because I have really small ears and I need to adjust the size of the thingies. But yeah, her account, stunning. I love
Agreed.
it.
Definitely. Oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like I've gained 2 new friends in the last week just from doing that. So swipe up on people's stories. It's an easy conversation
Mhm.
icebreaker. They've already posted something. Just respond to that. Like,
Yeah. That's
be
how that's how
engaged.
that's how my connections and whispering moments have happened. I just
Mm-hmm.
see someone posting on stories and I just start messaging like, "Oh my gosh, I love this," or just spark up the conversation that way. And honestly, like that's how it has started. And yeah, it's been great, honestly. I love it.
I've been really bad before, and you know this because you send me DMs, and then sometimes in a text you'll be like, "Did you see my DM?"
Yeah.
Because I'm just really bad at actually keeping up with my DMs, and I need to be better about that, and I'm going to be better about that. So,
Yeah.
so let us be your assurance that no matter what, there is value in your content, in your socials, no matter what your numbers look like. But it is important that you remain genuine and and care about the other people online too. Be outward
Hmm.
focused, not just inward
Yeah.
focused.
And it's definitely okay to lose
Mm-hmm.
followers, because that was
Yes.
the question at the beginning, and it definitely is okay. You don't have to worry. It doesn't mean that you have less value because you
Mm-hmm.
are losing followers. No, it's just there, you're going through a spring cleaning, and sometimes spring cleaning is needed to start fresh, and that's totally okay.
Exactly.
So thanks for being here, besties. We can't wait to talk soon. In our next episode, we're also going to be on YouTube. If you're already watching on YouTube, hello. And if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts and you would love to see us on YouTube, just head on over there to we will leave all our links in our social media and all of that stuff. So just make sure you get on there. We would love to just have you on there as well. Talk
Mm-hmm.
soon.
Bye.